So I've been getting a lot of questions, and this one in particular is not going away. What is the difference, or the main differences, between the Canon 70D and the Canon 60D? I think if you're a beginning photographer, or if this is your first DSLR, it can be a little confusing in terms of what you're getting. This is going to be a really quick review between these two cameras. If you want to see how they match up against their Nikon competitors, I'll put the links here for some extensive tests I've done in my epic shootouts. The Canon 70D, right now you can get it for about $1,200. The Canon 60D, prices come down significantly. It's about $1,600. The short answer is that if this is your first camera, or if you're a beginning photographer, 90% of you are just going to want to get the 70D. Before you all run out and buy it, let me point out the functional differences between the two and why they're important. The first and major important difference between the two is the sensor size. When we're looking at the Canon 60, it features a full-frame 35mm digital sensor. Now, a full frame is going to have some very key important functionality differences over a crop sensor, which is found in the Canon 70D. Crop sensors are smaller, and they have some differences that I'm going to point out. Three important key differences. The first important key difference is your field of view, is what you're seeing through the viewfinder. On a full-frame camera, you can expect that a 50mm lens is going to behave like a 50mm lens. It's going to give you the equivalent focal length of a 50mm field of view. If you were to take that same exact lens and put it on a crop sensor camera, in this case the 70D, you're going to experience a 1.6 multiplication factor on that focal length, which means it's going to behave like an 80mm lens, and you're not going to get as wide field of views. It's a very important difference, especially if you're a landscape photographer, or maybe you're shooting indoor architecture, or if you're shooting video inside buildings. It's going to make a really huge difference if you have that 60 and you get that wider field of view. The second huge difference when we're talking about a larger sensor size is that the overall image quality is going to be better on the 6D. The actual stencils, which is what generates a pixel, is physically larger, because they're both, you got about 21 megapixels on the 60, 20 megapixels on the 70D, and so the 70D is packing more of these stencils into a tighter space, and when this happens, it's not able to sample as cleanly as a full frame sensor that has larger stencils. The result of this is that you would see better image quality in terms of color, dynamic range. When you start bumping up the ISO, you're going to have a lot cleaner images. In the 6D, it's real impressive for its ISO performance. So image quality is going to be better on a full frame camera. That said, it's important for me to really emphasize the image quality coming out of the 70D is still pretty dang good. It's just better in the 6D. Third really important key difference with a full frame sensor is that your depth of field is going to be more shallow. Essentially, your recording media size comes into play in regards to depth of field. So if you have a very, very large recording media, you get more and more shallow depths of field. This is great if you're a portrait photographer and you like these buttery backgrounds. So sensor size, with a full frame sensor, you're going to get wider field of views, better image sampling, and a more shallow depth of field. Now, the second huge functional difference between the two cameras is in the focusing systems themselves. The Canon 70D features an outstanding focusing system for sports shooting, 19 cross-type focusing squares, and in the test that I've done, it was one of the highest rated sports shooting cameras I've ever used. It's that good. So if you're doing any sports shooting, if you have small children that run around, if you do like bird photography or animal and wildlife photography, you're definitely going to want to go with the Canon 70D. Now, having said that, I have to recognize that the 60 has an outstanding focusing system for low light, particularly its central focusing square. I was a wedding and portrait photographer for years, and if I was still shooting weddings as often as I would, that would be the camera I'd want, simply because it can focus really well in low light. 70D is not a good low light focusing camera, so these are very important differences between the focusing systems. Can the 6D shoot sports? Yeah, but it's not that great. It struggles a little bit. Now, the third key difference between these two cameras is that you're getting a lot more bells and whistles on the 70D. The 6D has built-in GPS, which is nice if that's your thing. They both have Wi-Fi, but when we look at all the other bells and whistles, the 70D has things like the articulating touchscreen monitor, which is really nice. You have a built-in flash and wireless transmitter for the flash systems, also really nice. You have the dual pixel focusing for live view video recording, really nice. If you do a lot of video shooting, wow, it's a beautiful camera. So in summary, who is the Canon 70D for? Pretty much if you're a first-time shooter, if you have kids, if you're a sports photographer, if you do wildlife shooting, if you do any kind of photography where you need extra reach, or you're interested in a really good general purpose camera, like if I was going on a vacation, that's probably the camera I would grab. If you do anything that has to do with wide angle field of views, such as landscape type shots, HDR, if you're doing portrait work, if you shoot weddings, events, street photographers, underwater photographers, you're all gonna wanna go with the 60. It's better because you get that wider field of view and higher image quality. Again, if you wanna see the extensive tests that I did on both of these cameras, I'll put the link in here. Whichever camera you decide to get, just know that I have excellent crash courses on both cameras. I take 11 years of experience and cram it in to about a 4-hour lesson specifically on how to use your camera. I'm gonna show you how to shoot like a pro in no time, and you can order them from the following links.